Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you all today?
Good, thank you.
Hello.
Excellent. Hi. So I'm Gail Walters and I'm the Executive Director of Strategy and Communications here at Peak Care. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the lands on which we gather today. I myself am on the lands of the Turrbal and Yuggera people here in Meanjin, Brisbane, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and extend those respects to the emerging leaders. I acknowledge the strength, wisdom and resilience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children, young people and families and communities who continue to nurture their cultures, share their stories and uphold their knowledge systems. And at Peak Care, we honour the enduring connections First Nations people have to land, waters, sky and community. And we remain committed to listening deeply, walking alongside and creating a future where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices are heard, valued and respected. I really appreciate you all joining today. We have been really grateful to have Shane Bevis join us from the department and to speak to us about the $1,500 carer payment for the extracurricular activities, and we're really interested after Shane sent some information to us to hear directly from anyone that's got any questions or about how this works or anything like that, and we'd really welcome you can pop your hand up, come off mute, or also please feel free to use the chat if you need to at any time. I'm going to throw over to you, Shane, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you, Bianca, for assistance. I'm Shane Bevis, Manager of the Family-Based Care and Support Team in Investment and Commissioning, and we've been working on the implementation and continue to support now rollout of the $1,500 extracurricular payment for children and young people. I've got a presentation to show, also some Mentimeter activities just to gauge awareness going in and awareness going out, and take the opportunity to also glean from you guys what works and what might be some of the barriers we should also be considering as we go on with implementation of this initiative. As Gail said, it's a relatively small group. We could be growing. I've got 12 in the meeting I can see, and wouldn't mind just pop your hand up if you need to ask a question. I should see that. If I don't, Gail or my team member Eloise, who's also on the line, can interrupt me and get me to pause so that we can get a question and answer session going. But we will hold some time at the end to go through questions and answers. I'm going to now attempt to share my screen and present. And if I could just get a small show of hands, that's coming up. Excellent.
All good, Shane. Well done.
So just to kick things off, to understand the room, I know we've got a lot of people who work in and around residential care services for children and young people. I wouldn't mind you grabbing onto that Mentimeter code and pulling up the presentation, the question. And I'll see whether or not I can now present this. Can people see the Mentimeter question?
How confident are you in making an application? That's the one?
That's the one, yep.
Yep.
And Kerry, I've got your hand up straight away.
Yeah, sorry. Could you just pop that link in the chat for me, please?
Oh, yes.
It'd just be much quicker. Thank you. I don't have great mobile service where I am.
Not a problem. I'm going to have to go back to my PowerPoint.
I can probably type it in, Shane, just as quickly.
Oh, thank you. If you could. You know, I did have that thought in preparing, and then I completely forgot about making sure that link was available in the chat. I'll leave it up there for just a little bit longer so Gail could do that for us. Thank you, Gail. Let us know if I need to go back, Gail.
2 seconds. I think I've got that right now. It should be in the chat.
I can see we've got 9 of 12, 9 of 13. All right. That's just a good little snapshot for us to gauge where everyone's at. And we're hoping to obviously move you along that continuum to being very and somewhat confident to go forth and use the boost payment going forward. I'm confident that we can get you there in 45 minutes today. So, bit of background first of all for people obviously who are asking what is an extracurricular boost payment. It was an election commitment of the current government to introduce a $1,500 increase to care allowances and support to carers for all children in care so that they can participate in extracurricular activities. So, and there's some guidelines were published in the first 1 days, and some links to those guidelines and other resources will be made available at the end of the presentation. And then also as a budget outcome from the 25-26 budget of 70.1 million over the next 3 years to fund that $1,500 payment to carers, guardians, as well as make available financial supports for people looking after children in non-family based care and other care arrangements. The scope of extracurricular activities include, but I have to stress, not limited to, the sorts of things that often pop into people's minds: sport, recreation, tutoring, music, but also cultural citizenship groups, on-country programs and camps, and participations in clubs. The key here is we're wanting to empower engagement with you and young people you're working with about their aspirations to help guide decision making. So there is a flexible approach to this where we have not wanted just simply to list these are allowable extracurricular activities and these are not, or indeed create a list of what is extracurricular and what is not. We do, however, and this will become clear in the procedures we ask you to follow and forms we ask you to fill in, to group them into some activity and activity types for us for reporting. Now that's so we can tell the narrative, the story of what children are being supported to do. What are they interested in? Whether it be arts, culture, music, recreation like scouts, Girl Guides, sporting clubs, or tutoring for their own education outside of school. We also, and this is the tip for, is this within scope or out of scope of this? Should I or should not I buy this thing with the $1,500 with this child or young person? Is to think of it in terms of, am I enrolling the child or young person into a club to undertake the extracurricular activities, or am I buying them equipment so that they can participate in that extracurricular activities? Now, enrolment can also include support to go away on camps, enrolment in state representative bodies and things like that for extracurricular activities that child or young person is participating in. The handy tip here is that the activity type belongs to and follows the child or young person. So that feeds into what it doesn't include. So services already covered by contracted investments, investing in care for children and young people. And the point of this is we don't want to see the extracurricular boost offsetting investments already made. We want this to be in addition to. So, for example, if you're undertaking travel to take children and young people to and from their activities, that's not something we want to see the $1,500 being spent against and for us to get invoices or receipts about. Sorry for the typo there, but recreational facilities provided within a home that remains in the home for all children and young people to use. So if you're buying a pool table or a ping pong table for the residential care facility for children to use, that's part of normal operations. Now, if a young person's really interested in ping pong and wanted to buy a really expensive ping pong bat, professional grade, then yes, you use it because it's their equipment. They're going to take it with them. Similarly, ordinary education living costs, such as laptops required for students and education supports, that should already be provided to them, either as part of their education supports or transition from care planning. Now, I mentioned laptops, but that doesn't mean laptops aren't an eligible type of purchase for extracurricular activities. If the young person's extracurricular activity was coding, digital art, mixing music, and they wanted to buy a computer to help them with that extracurricular activity pursuit that they were undertaking, then that would be within scope. So the flexibility requires some thinking about the activity and the activity type. And a good tip is thinking about in terms of that the good, the service belonging to that young person when they leave, and it's about an enrolment or equipment for an activity that's extracurricular. The process for residential care services to access the $1,500, once you had those conversations guided by kids and working around what their extracurricular activities needs are, is to complete the form, and we have a link for the form in the presentation, attach the receipt for the good or enrolment that's been made. You'll see the form allows at the bottom here the activity type and whether it's equipment or enrolment to be listed there, and some free text to put in place. The service centre code is the service centre you're sending this to. There's a list of those service centres and their code on the reverse of this form, and the child's details obviously required, but that form one page is completed, emailed to the service centre, and then the reimbursement will occur. Decisions to undertake extracurricular activities, obviously led by children and young people, as I've said, and there's also a good reminder just to refresh decision-making around approved activities, including high-risk activities. So there's a section of the Child Safety Practice Manual, key steps around decision-making for a child, that might need to be referred to if you think the activity is in a category of high-risk activity that a young person might be undertaking. Couple of what ifs to preempt some questions. So what if participation costs more than the $1,500? Our services, as residential care services, funded non-family-based care services, are not expected to access additional contingency-based funds held by us outside of their funding arrangement. That's a quote directly lifted from our investment specifications for non-family-based care services, residential care services, and the like. There is always, as is written in our investment specifications, provisions when there might be acute need, and these can be made at the discretion of the Child Safety Service Centre and financial delegate on a negotiated basis. But for the main, like I said, we'd be expecting those sorts of extracurricular activities to still being supported as part of normal business operations, the travel to and from, the support over. In addition to the $1,500 is still there within contracts to support. What if a young person had received part of the extra boost payment in a previous family-based care arrangement? This won't impact your residential care services ability to access the full $1,500 in a current financial year for that young person. There's no way for us to effectively manage that, and we are happy to support payments being made from the residential care service to the fullest extent possible to make sure that they are participating and engaged in extracurricular activities wherever possible. But what if the young person had received part of all the extracurricular boost payments in a previous non-family based care arrangement? That's when the alignment will take place. The new residential care service will be able to access any remaining funds from the financial year, and to check that with the Child Safety Service Centre, they'll be able to advise you of what had been spent previously to know what is available going forward. And as I said, if we're purchasing things as an enrolment or equipment for the child and young person with this, they should follow the child and young person. So if they're moving residential care services and they'd had a enrolment in a sporting club, or they had purchased soccer boots for that sporting club, or attending tuition, those things would continue in the new residential care service, or the child would arrive with those things. As I said, key documents and resources are all available on our website. extracurricular activities, there's a policy that I've highlighted and draw your attention to. There's the procedure for non-family based care providers. And it really speaks to that simple process I spoke about before. The application is online to download and use. And as I said, that includes a list of Child Safety Service Centres details to match to the form that you can undertake. And there's also frequently asked questions for non-family based care and non-family based care providers. There's one for carers and guardians and child safety staff. We are working on some material for children and young people as well. That will be relevant for providers to have to share to support that engagement. Now, I'm going to pause there and stop sharing. I'll come back to that slide with the Menti, and I'll just break and ask for questions because I've got no hands up, and I want to check, did that make sense? Sophie.
Sophie from Canada here. I'm just questioning, we're sent through receipts for payment. Did you need invoicing and do we need pre-approval?
If you're following the list of what you can purchase for a child and young person, the only thing to check is if they have already accessed it in a previous residential care facility.
Yep.
So if they've come from somewhere else, that's probably later on down the track. There won't be anybody in that case now. This only started 1 July.
Yep.
So going forward, that might be something to check. But otherwise, if it's an extracurricular activity and you're confident in that equipment, enrolment in clubs and so forth, you don't need to come to us first. Receipt, application from yourselves with the receipts attached will be enough for the business support officers and service centres to process the payment.
Okay. And we don't need to invoice.
No, don't need to invoice. They'll process the payment and deposit it to the vendor account linked to the care arrangement of that child.
Okay.
We're not creating new vendors as part of this process, as a bit of a risk management strategy as well, but also to simplify it. Service centres aren't paying for this out of their own cost centres. It's coming from a cost centre we manage centrally across the state. So there's no additional approval processes at the service centre level other than checking the child, the form, and eligibility.
And will there be a standardised way for us to be able to identify these payments as they come through our system?
They should be coming through with a clear reference and extracurricular boost payment, but we can work on that standardisation with our business support officers team as they make those payments, but they would typically make sure it's pretty clear in the payment that it's extracurricular boost payment.
Okay.
And they would normally include the child's details too in terms of initials and last name so that you can match it to in case you had multiple being made at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Shane has already agreed that he will share the slide deck. We have another session on Tuesday as well that we will run, and once that session has happened, I'll email everybody a copy of the slides that Shane has provided today.
Now, if everyone's still got that Menti open, if we could jump back in, because I'm just going to hit to the next slide. Can people see that Menti question, and can people see it in their device?
And it's the same link that was in the chat that I put up before.
Yep, same link in the chat before.
Are you supposed to be presenting, Shane?
Yes.
You're not. We're just looking at you.
That's unfortunate. Okay. How's that?
Yep, got you now.
So just strongly agree, strongly disagree, understanding the impactfulness of this process. That's wonderful to see. I'll give it a little bit longer. I can see 10 out of 18 sharing. If I go along to the next slide, this is the bit where you really put your thinking caps on, and for our interest too, to know what are the extracurricular activities that you're being presented with or thinking about with the children and young people you're working with, either already undertaking it, and please let us know if there are, because we are not for 1 minute suggesting that children in care aren't already undertaking extracurricular activities. A lot are, and a lot are being supported by their committed and wonderful carers and care workers. So we'd like to get a little bit of a snapshot about what they are and maybe what this can now support payment with, or what you're thinking on an opportunity to explore could be. So looking for someone to kick off. Yep. Yeah. So that's something we'd like to work with and stay close to around some of these things that are weekly costs, because we know we might drive people batty with paperwork, sending in each week a little bit of the 1,500. We're interested to work with people around a streamlining of that, but that's on our to-do list as we explore interaction around reimbursing providers around the activities that they're undertaking. So that's a good pickup, and thinking about those weekly costs, and we've got that logged as something to explore as we go along, to make sure we're not creating any bureaucratic log jams for people. I'm glad someone's programming coding after school, because that's my laptop example in using. Sophie.
Sorry, I am that person in the meeting always. Oh. Sorry about that. You showed a page before that had a link for frequently asked questions and information. Now, can you throw that that page link into the chat at some point, just so we can sort of bookmark it? Should we need to double check on things?
I can do that, Shane. I can do that, Shane.
Thank you, Eloise. Yeah, we'll throw that. If you could throw the link to that FAQ, but also the landing page, because as content's developed, that's where it will appear on our website.
Yep.
That's fantastic. All right, I won't labour the point, and we'll move on. So we know sometimes there can be barriers, and we're interested to make sure we're pitching all of our supports to the right ones for extracurricular activities for children and young people. So we just wanted to take some time. You should be able to rank where you think these barriers exist, whether that be cost, engagement of young people, the availability of activities near you, decision making and approval to participate, time commitment of carers and staff. Others, something that's not included here, and we'll get to that, or cost is sort of what's the barrier that we need to focus in and make sure is clearly articulated. And sorry, the second Mentimeter and second slideshow and the ones you receive won't have the typos fixed in it. I should mention one of the items of information we have for carers that will make sure is available as a hint and tip, and I think it may be in the FAQs, but I could be wrong, is Sport and Rec's website has a list of activities for children and young people groups and so forth as a good resource when you're worried about activities near you to explore. to access and engage. We're conscious of that as a barrier, so happy to share information from across the department around what might be easy ways of checking. People might well be aware of that and already utilising it, but for what it's worth, we'll make sure we share that as well. All right. I can only see 3 participants so far. Oh, now they're coming through. I'll wait for at least 5. So we got 5 in the last one. There we are. Okay. Availability, engagement, decision making. Okay. Now for people that this might be a non-event slide, then for other, if anyone thinks of any other barriers that we should be thinking of, what are they? But as that was the 7th run on people's lists, we might have captured all the issues we should be aware of. This is just for us to make sure there's not another one that you see from the coalface that we should be wary of and focus on. So if people want to put none, that's fine. But given there was only, this was the last out of 7 barriers, I don't think people might have anything to add here. I will move on. Is that okay with everyone? Ah. Thank you for the contribution. All right, I'm going to move on to our last slide. Just to know whether I need to pack more information into this for the next workshop or whether or not we're hitting our marks. After participating in today's lunchbox session, where do people feel they are in confidence in making an extracurricular boost payment? From I'm going to make one this week to I still have no idea what to do. All right. That's very pleasing to see. And we very much encourage people to go out and think about how they might access this new financial resource for children and young people that they're looking after, and really let children and young people guide the sort of conversation around their interests, what they'd like to do, and make best use of this $1,500 boost.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Shane. I'll just give anybody last moment of chance to ask if there's any more questions that anybody would like to have answered. As I said, I will share these slides after Tuesday's session to everybody, but of course we've got the resources added to the chat here, but reach out either to the department or to us here at Peak Care if you need any help with any of this. We're very happy to help and assist making sure that you guys can access the funds to support our